as a child, I never cried in front of anybody. Even going through my divorce, I wouldn't allow my son to see me crying because that's just how I grew up. And I realized that it's not a weakness. It is, in fact, a strength to be able to share your emotions in front of people.
Welcome to Women Thrive podcast. This is where you'll get to hear incredible stories of female entrepreneurs, business owners, women from all walks of life. Myself, Raimonda and my co-host Abigail will be interviewing incredible women, hearing inspiring stories of women from all around the world. I have no doubt that you will find something that will be life-changing for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes. Hello and welcome to today's podcast episode. My name is Raimonda and I will be your host for today's interview with one of our amazing authors from the Women Thrive book. I am so excited to welcome my wonderful guest, Linda Clarke. Hello, Linda. How are you?
Hey, Ray, I am doing absolutely excellent today.
Where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from sunny Nassau, Bahamas.
Oh, I love Bahamas, the white sand beach and the beautiful sun. I certainly miss that. Today's episode is going to be about how to turn your emotions into superpowers. And if you thought that perhaps being vulnerable, being emotional, and having all those feels is a weakness, let's explore how we can turn that into superpowers. So, my guest today is Linda Clarke, who is actually a professional speaker, very well accomplished professional speaker, author, a real estate manager in an asset management company in the Bahamas, and she has a master's degree in law with international finance and banking law at the University of Liverpool. And she has spent over 25 years in the financial services industry. She has most recently been awarded the Distinguished Toastmasters designation, which is the highest individual achievement that a member can attain in the Toastmasters. She has also been elected as Division B Director, who's responsible for over 22 clubs in South Florida. And as originally from Bahamas, she is passionate about distance running and has successfully completed 26 miles which is absolutely incredible. And now Linda really helps others achieve their marathon ambitions. She's also passionate about mentoring and coaching others in leadership and also public speaking. Linda, what an impressive bio you have there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's really just such a snapshot of my life and some of the things that I'm really passionate about and proud of, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last 6 months, getting to know your passion, your story, which you have a phenomenal story. And I'm feeling really emotional just thinking about all the things you have gone through. And now your story is going to touch the lives of others. Linda, tell me just a little bit about yourself, like as a person, things that you're passionate about, and how you got to where you are today.
I will tell you, Ray, if I had to look, let's say, 10 years back and see the person who I am today, or if someone were to say to me, this is the person who I am today, I probably would not believe it. Growing up, I was very shy, not athletic at all, actually overweight, and just really an introvert. I really didn't interact or get out much. I had a big family, lots of brothers and sisters. I was very passionate about reading, still am today. And this new world of public speaking and positioning myself as an author, being in Toastmasters, speaking on Toastmasters convention stages, it's such a shift from who I was and how I've grown up. Throwing marathoning in there is something that I became really passionate about as I navigated through some of life's difficulties, going through a divorce. And of course, we'll definitely get into more of that as part of my story. But essentially, that's me. I love to travel. I love reading. I love writing. I have a son who is my world. And everything that I do, I feel like I do to make his life better and just to develop to be the woman and the mother and someone who I know that my son can be proud of.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I really love your dedication to what you do, your perseverance. I mean, 6 marathons? You must have some really tough mental strength. And I don't just mean physical, because it is really about the mental strength that you have to have in order to conquer 6 marathons.
Absolutely. And six is just the tip of the iceberg. We collectively have done about 80 competitive races. So if you're throwing in like the half marathon distances, 10Ks, 5Ks, fun run walks, it's really been a passion of mine, I would say, since 2018.
Yeah. And you certainly write about that part in your story and how that has helped you overcome some of the challenges in your life. It's a really, really interesting story of how that actually became a thing in your life. Tell me a little bit more about what you share in the Women Thrive book.
I will say for me, for my chapter in the book, it starts off almost haunting, Ray, just dramatic. And it really just gets right into my story and into the dark portions of my life where I speak about how my struggles with depression, my struggles with being suicidal at that point in my life, and navigating through having the breakdown of my marriage, raising my son who was very young at the time, and really the ebbs and flow of my life, just as I'm on that journey of starting to really feel positive. In comes a devastating blow, obviously, the passing of my mom. And I've been able to navigate through that. So it's almost a roller coaster ray of emotions, to be honest with you. And it is something that I've never shared. A lot of people who are so close to me never really had the opportunity to be included in this portion of my life and my story. And so it's really going to be so interesting to the persons, my loved ones in my life, to just know this is what I'm going through. And you get up every day, Ray, and you put on this great face. And so many people don't know what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I think that the my chapter of the book speaks a lot about that and speaks essentially about really being an overcomer and not overcoming by pretending that everything is okay, but by acknowledging when things are not okay and taking the steps to put in the work for your own self healing.
When you were faced with the darkest moments of your life, and I know you talk about being suicidal and really not seeing your life's worth anymore, certain points in your life, especially when you were faced with divorce that just came unexpectedly. What was your shining light? What stopped you from taking that step and gave you meaning again?
I will say one thing in particular, and again, it's part of what I share in the book. Having a young son at the time, I think he had not even turned 5 yet. And all I could think about, Ray, was him. And knowing that I did not want to leave, to depart this space and this earth with him never knowing what I was dealing with. And I felt as though if I did that abruptly, he would grow up thinking that it was something, somehow, something he did or who he was. I never wanted to put the burden on him of feeling responsible for what I was going through. And that was the single, I would say, the only thing that really stopped me. and really proved to be my shining light in that moment was just thinking about him.
Yeah. And once you in that experience in those moments, what were the things that you did on a daily basis to help you overcome depression and the feelings that you were going through?
Well, I will say on that day, I went on a crazy long run and just running with tears in my eyes. I was already scheduled to do a training run, and I was in active marathon training for my first marathon
Mm,
when that took place. And so instead of taking my life, I decided to go running. And that has proved to be so pivotal. It has been such a benchmark for me in terms of what I ended up really relying on in that stage of my life was just to go for a run, to use that opportunity to think about my life and really where my life was heading. So running was definitely one thing and how that became so pivotal. And the second, of course, is therapy. And that's something that I speak about as well in the chapter of my book.
mhm,
I acknowledged at that point that running is not a substitute for seeking help. Talking to my friends and my loved ones is not a substitute for speaking with someone professionally. And I truly believe that in that moment, when I acknowledged that it was too much, I reached out. And
mhm.
having that person who I was able to reach out to share certain emotions proved to be a turning point in my life because she left me with a challenge. And the challenge, of course, is something that I speak about in my book, which I refer to as the list. And I'm definitely excited to have the readers of the book really take a deep dive into what that list looked like for me and how it allowed me to shift my focus from negative to positive.
Tell me more about this list.
Well, I will say, and I'll tell you, I wasn't provided with a list, I was provided with a challenge. And the challenge was to populate a list of things that I would be excited about, that I would be passionate about. And Ray, it had an asterisk. It could not have anything to do with being a wife or being a mother. And that shocked me because up until that point, those were really the two adjectives that I identified with. I really didn't know how to be anyone else. And even before I got married, I had already attained my master's degree. I already had my bachelor's degree. So logically, I know that I'm an educated woman. However, when I got married, I gave up certain things. I was already on a track to leadership. I had already been in leadership positions in other civic organizations. And then when I got married, my husband's like, okay, well, you're a wife now and we have this child, and it's time to give those things up and just focus on family and motherhood. So at that point, right, I didn't know how to be anything else. I didn't know how to think about what I wanted to be outside of these boxes that I was placed in. I knew that I definitely wanted to get serious about running. I wanted to get into blogging. I wanted to record podcasts. I wanted to speak more and be an authority and kind of shift who I was at that point in time. And again, I got no guidance on the list. It was simply to just write the list, and this is going to be your focus, which you're going to really, when you think about what makes you passionate, write those things down, focus on those things. And I still have that list tucked away in one of my journals to this very day because I think it's important to look back and see that so much that's on that list is things that I'm doing now in this process. And so
Yeah.
it's very liberating.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And we're talking today about emotions being your superpowers. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh my goodness. I'll definitely say, as a child with both of my parents, they were not really so much into communicating and really sharing positive emotions. And so as a child, I never cried in front of anybody. If I had an urge to cry, I would just lock myself in my room and I would cry. Never cried in front of people. I would attend church and all of these things would be happening in church because I grew up in the church and people would be crying and they would be letting out all of their emotions, Ray, and I couldn't do that. And I didn't realize that that wasn't exactly a positive thing. It wasn't really a positive emotion. Even going through my divorce, I would sit in my car and cry. I would put myself in the corners of my room and cry, and I wouldn't allow my son to see me crying because that's just how I grew up. And when the opportunity for the book came about and I was submitting my application for Women Thrive, I cried as I was completing the application for the book. And again, like going through my divorce, I definitely cried, but not in front of people. And being in the space with Women Thrive and the other amazing authors on this journey, and just the first meeting out of the gate, just crying tears. So this is something that is so new to me. I've gotten in a space now where I'm presenting in Toastmasters and I just let it out. I just would cry at the lectern. I cry and everybody's crying. And I realized that it's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. It is, in fact, a strength to be able to share your emotions, Ray, in front of people who really don't know your story and don't know what you're going through, and that it's not healthy to continue to present yourself as always having it together. There is not a person on the planet who has it together 24/7. And I realized that there were some unhealthy traits and habits that I really had to unlearn. And so much of that I've been able to do with the journey in this book with Women Thrive, and just really now positioning myself to be a healthy version, a healthy Linda, and just not shutting down my emotions and shutting out people. And I think that that is how I've been able to really transition and utilize my emotions as superpowers when before I looked at them as weaknesses.
Wow, just so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you talk about it because a lot of times we hide behind our accolades and what people think that we are. And whether you're a leader, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a position in an organization, company, even at home, and just putting that front of like, hey, I have it all together. I'm okay. But as you say, your emotions can be so healthy to process and also to display that it is a strength. I'm not I'm not weak by showing my emotions. I'm actually just healthy by doing so, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And we certainly cried a lot on this journey, and there's
Yes.
been 14 authors on this journey this year. What would you say was probably the hardest part about having to go back and write your story?
I would say the hardest part of having to go back and write my story was to deal with the emotions with my mom passing, because
Mhm.
there were certain deadlines in the book that coincided with the date of her passing. And so I had a 2-week block, Ray, where I don't know, I would say I refused to write, but I could not edit the first draft for the book because when the time came and I'm looking down and I'm scrolling through my story and I'm getting to that part, it was very difficult to put how I felt into words. And then we talk about emotions being your superpower. I felt that even in that moment of editing my chapter, I felt as though I was holding back my emotions, relying on those old patterns that I believed I had overcome at that point. Because at this point, we're well into the drafting of the chapters of the book. And it felt like a setback for me, Ray. I was like, I can't believe like I'm back in this space again, not wanting to show emotions, not even wanting to cry to myself because it was just so painful to put on paper. This is how I felt when I lost my mom. And having the women in the group really helped to support me, and just knowing that I wasn't alone. We all had our struggles as we edited our respective chapters. And I'm so thankful to you and, of course, to Paige for your grace and definitely your understanding, and to say, you know what, Linda, it's okay to take a moment to flesh this out, feel this out, and then come back to the chapter of the book. And that, I would have to say, was one of my most difficult moments. Just the timelines and how everything lined up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to go at this chapter. And this is the anniversary of my mom's passing. And even today, like we're in Mother's Day weekend. And so I'm so cognizant of where I'm at emotionally in this space, even as we have this dialogue. So that definitely was my hardest moment in this writing process.
Wow. Wow. There's so much that happens behind the scenes in our lives and behind the scenes of putting together a story like that and being able to share your story. And I don't underestimate the emotional burden and just emotional capacity that is required to really go there and go through that process of processing your own emotions, but then writing something that will be of value and like a gift to our readers. What do you hope that your chapter will achieve for the readers, or will help them unlock, or how your chapter story will inspire others?
Oh, wow. I would hope that as persons read my chapter, read the book, and I think I've really underscored it, is just knowing that everything that you've gone through are the stepping stones to the person you're becoming. And now I can go back and I can reread my chapter and be proud of what I've written. It's still an emotional story, but I know that where I was in 2018 is not where I am in 2024. And my gift to the reader is knowing that if anyone who picks up this chapter in 2024 and you're facing some of the most difficult, pounding moments of your life, if you could look ahead 5 or 6 years and know and see the person that you're becoming on the other side of your emotions, you too will be able to look at that with pride and understand that these are the things that you had to go through to get to where you are today. And I've questioned it, Ray. I've questioned whether or not I had to go through all of these things
Mm.
to get to where I am today. But I have to acknowledge that I wouldn't trade a lot of those things that happened for anything else, because I don't know if I would be here today without going through what I went through. And that is what I would say is my biggest takeaway.
Wow. Yeah, it's phenomenal that our life experiences, even the darkest alleys of our lives, actually has a positive way of shaping our future. And I mean, Look at yourself. And we started this podcast with like, I can't even believe I'm here. I'm looking at myself today and I can't believe how far I have come. And you have a beautiful son. You have a career that you're proud of and you're doing amazingly. Your speaking career is taking off and you're so accomplished in your speaking career now, as well as, of course, you're becoming an author, which is exciting opportunity in itself. And yeah, what's next, Linda? So, beyond all of these amazing things, what else do you want to conquer in your life?
Oh my goodness. I'm definitely so excited to be able to use this book as a springboard into the next level and the next stage of my life. And I'm finding that even in the Toastmasters realm, and they're like, oh my goodness, you're coming out with a book. And anybody who Toastmasters will say there is an element of telling your story in speaking, and there's an element of telling your story in writing via becoming an author. And they're actually two very different voices. And so, where Toastmasters is so focused on the speaking, they are now intrigued on the written text. And I've actually submitted another speaker application to present for the second year in a row at Toastmasters International Convention in Anaheim, California, on this same topic about how you're able to build upon speech writing in becoming an author. And so it's fingers crossed on that one, waiting for our convention chairs to confirm that. But in any event, Ray, I know that this is just such a golden nugget. This is the start of another beginning in my personal chapter. And I'm excited even to be able to display published authors so proudly on my LinkedIn platforms and of course my social media platforms. It's
Yeah.
truly an accomplishment.
Yeah. And you should be so proud because I know how hard you worked to put your story together. I know with a beautiful purpose and mission to inspire other people who might be going through difficult divorce, who might be at the verge of just really struggling with their lives. And your story is so inspirational. When the first time I read it, it's got such a beautiful golden thread throughout, and the way you present your life experiences, I know it's going to be just incredible. And for those of you listening, make sure you grab a copy of the Women Thrive Volume 3 book, which is inspiring true stories of women overcoming adversity, and it's going to be out June 20th. And of course, Linda will be actually on our stage for our virtual summit that is going to be happening on the 20th of June for the launch of the book. I'm so excited, Linda. I can't wait to see you on the stage, as well as for our listeners to read the copy of the Women Thrive book. And just thank you so much for going as deep as you have to share your story and make the impact in this world.
Thank you, Ray, so much. I've said it often. I am so blessed to be able to trust you with my story because even the thread through this hope, this interview has been trusting people with your emotions. And so when we talk about emotions being a superpower, so much of that is being able to trust another person with your emotions and trust them with your story. And so
Yeah.
I'm thankful that you have provided that platform for so many of us to be able to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And to all of our listeners, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you know someone who might be benefiting from this episode, please feel free to share it. And of course, thanks so much to our beautiful guest today, Linda Clarke. You can find all of her beautiful links to connect with her, follow her on social media channels in the show notes. And I hope you get to read Linda's story in the upcoming book. Linda, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to see you today.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you listening, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode. Take care for now. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in to Women Thrive podcast. If you found today's episode empowering and inspiring, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Better yet,
leave a review, and share it with others. We're committed to bringing you more stories that will empower and inspire you on your own journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep pursuing your dreams.